Hola, ¿cómo están? Bonjour, je m'appelle Dr. Armstead. Ahlan wa sahlan. Hi, I'm Dr. A. My students call me Dr. A at the middle school. And I've been working for a few years with middle schoolers. Now, my overall education experience spans over 20 years, and I've taught every grade level from K through college. So at the University of Illinois here, I actually developed a course on Africans and African Americans. It was kind of a cultural studies course where we dove into some of the misunderstandings and some of the understandings, and of course, the histories. And we also, and I'm going to get into that a little later, we used a tool called dialogue. So just to introduce what I would be interested in doing, my teaching. So first I'll talk to you about my philosophy of teaching, and then I'll get into some specifics about some theory that we should know, and I would like to teach and touch upon when I teach. And then finally what we should be doing today, why we should be even including this today. So my background is I have a master's in applied linguistics, and I love languages, study languages. And I've been to several different, 5 different African countries. And I grew up, I'm African American, so I love talking about and promoting, shedding light on Black studies. And so it makes a difference. My teaching is really a culturally responsive teaching in the vein of Goldie Muhammad. Culturally responsive in that you don't just leave out what the kid has been through and where they're coming from, because you really want to reach the children. I do a lot of differentiation, especially because I do language teaching, so I have kids at different levels. I also make sure that the kids know that I care, so I spend a lot of social emotional learning time at the beginning, and fortunately I'm at a school that promotes that. And so that's kind of my background. I do a lot of clear communication in terms of today, for example, because it's the beginning of the school year, and we collectively as a class went over, they came up with the rules. I had every person contribute something, and some of them were repetitive, like give respect to each other, but it was great because now they own it, they're invested. So you have to do a little bit of something different when you teach children as opposed to adults, and I love teaching both. So what is one theory that I'm very interested in? I've done a lot of work on Saussure. Saussure did the significant, how words are the signifiers, and then they represent some kind of thought. And I found something that I was discovered and have written upon is the same thing happens with language. With skin color. And I'll give you an example. When the famous comedian Trevor Noah was in South Africa, they have more than one race there, but they have a race called colored as opposed to being black and as opposed to being white. And he was considered colored. And he was worried. He asked someone, and you probably have heard some of this. I went ahead and read his book, Born a Crime. And he thought when he went to the United States, he wasn't sure if he would be considered black. He wanted to be. Well, yes, he was, because in every society, we have our own social cultural history, and how it affects how we have, let's see what word I want to use, the same information, the same person. In him, there's one person. Over there, he's considered colored. Give him a different environment, just like we do with words and sounds, and now the meaning changes. So then he actually became a different race. And so I've studied abroad, and I myself studied abroad and have traveled to many different countries. And one thing that's for sure is people do see black, but what does it mean to them? It's very different. It's very different depending on the social, historical environment that you're in. So if you're in one country, this might be a big deal, and in another country, not so much. And in the United States, for example, there's a lot of baggage. So I believe our students should know the actual history when studying the U.S. instead of letting that slip through our fingers. Each generation, we risk our students not believing us because we let it fall by the wayside and we don't properly teach the history of African Americans in this country. And one thing I like to emphasize is that the history of Black folks did not begin and end with slavery. No, we've got hundreds of years, thousands of years of people living in the continent of Africa, the continent of light. And then for just about a 200-year period, coming to this country and being minoritized and having the institution of slavery upon them. So I think that we can be very clear with children and share, and this is not something that only Black students need to know. The entire curriculum, everyone needs to know because it's world history and we need to spread that and teach that. So what does it mean for us today and how? I mean, that's really what it means for us, is that we don't want to repeat the past and we don't want to make the past invisible and the people who went through all of that to become invisible. And we have the phenomenon of erasure happening where students are denying the past because they don't believe it. So it's up to us to actually present it in an engaging way where they can understand. And so I believe that one tool I can use, and this is what I alluded to at the beginning, is dialogue. To teach children the difference. And this is what I did at the university when I created my course, Africans and African Americans, which of course in hindsight, I really wanted to include all Black people all everywhere there. That's not all the Black people in the world, but it's good because I learned myself. I learned and I want to teach others. But I have to help students see that we're not going to debate. It's actually about dialogue. So a dialogue, with debate you have a winner, you have a loser, and you're trying to argue. But in dialogue, you're trying to listen. So that would be my main tool for teaching, is dialogue. And so I'm very excited. A year ago, I was explaining to my then assistant principal, who is now my principal, that I wanted to do a course like this for the middle schoolers, where we talk more about Black history and the Black history and the place of people of color or Black people in the world at large, because it means so much. The first time I went abroad, I was shocked by so many things. And that's what I want to bring to our kids. I want to give them some context. So thank you very much. Yeah, I want to shed light on that. Again, Dinah Armstead.